Well, hello and welcome to Working Lunch, the Chamber's weekly series where we talk with community leaders, getting to know the person behind the work and the interesting things they're working on. I'm Jim D'Antona, CEO of the San Luis Chamber, and today we'll be having a conversation with Executive Director of the San Luis Obispo Botanical Gardens, Chenda Lor. Chenda got what she refers to as her dream job of Executive Director of the SLO Botanical Gardens around the same time that I joined the SLO Chamber back in January of 2019. Chenda brings an incredibly diverse education and work background to her role as Executive Director. Chenda originally came to the Central Coast back in 2002 after obtaining a Bachelor of Arts in Biology along with work in geology and studio arts. She spent over a decade in the custom home and construction development industry before landing her current role with the Botanical Gardens. I'm so looking forward to talking with Chenda about what led her passion on biology and geology, what are the latest happenings with the Botanical Garden, and the very interesting projects that are coming soon. Chenda, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Really exciting.
Yeah, such a pleasure. And as everyone settles down into lunch here, where are you zooming in from today?
I'm at home in Morro Bay. I actually call this room the garden room. So.
Well, so appropriate, and just down the way, obviously, from the Botanical Gardens there. I always like to start to learning a little more about how people came to be in SLO. You didn't grow up on the Central Coast, so how did you find your way to SLO?
Well, it definitely wasn't a direct path. We kind of hit all the corners of the United States, and I'm actually from Cambodia originally. So my family immigrated when I was 5 to the Chicago area, and I grew up in a little town called Mundelein, the north suburbs, and then I went to school in Maine. So Bates College in Maine, hitting that coast, from the coast of Lake Michigan to the coast of Maine, and then we moved after graduation to Bainbridge Island, Washington, by Seattle. So my ex got a job in Seattle, and then we were there for 4.5 years. I say we lasted 4.5 years until that dreadful winter of 100 straight days of no sunshine whatsoever. And we figured we need to move back to, well, he's from Southern California, so we needed to move back south. And his parents retired in Paso Robles, and they are still there. And that's how we came about being in SLO, and yeah, from Bainbridge Island.
That beautiful spots. I mean, it sounds like you were in some really incredible spots. Certainly Maine, very interesting. Bainbridge Island, that's fun. But interesting to hear how you found your way all the way to SLO County, because it seems that a majority of the story of folks that I talk to come to the Central Coast, came without an existing position or a job that drew them here, but they just make it work. What drew you to the custom home kind of construction industry?
Well, after college, we didn't have a big wedding, and I didn't get a diamond ring, because going shopping for diamonds with me was very fun, but not fruitful, because I'm a little picky about my diamonds since I know geology, and also for the social aspects of owning a diamond. I didn't want to be part of that. So instead, we saved our money and bought 6.5 acres on Bainbridge Island. That same year, we graduated, we bought property, we had a baby, we moved, got married, of course, got married first, and then yeah, and started building homes and designing them. I was always interested in construction and building. My very first job ever, that real job, was at Siegel's Home and Building Center in Vernon Hills. And I grew to love and learn a lot about designing and putting in finished custom kitchens and remodels and stuff like that. So it just was a natural progression for me, who loves plants and gardening anyways, to start building. And I worked with an architect first on our first home, and designed and built that one on the weekends. And while raising the kids, and we moved to SLO, and it just seemed like the most lucrative business to be in, and it was a natural progression. So my ex-husband got his contractor's license in 2002, and we opened up Better Builders Inc. And we have been, well, we built and designed and worked on other, commercial and residential real estate for over 15 years together. Yeah, that's how we got to being here in construction. And but always loving having that flexibility of owning your own business also, doing your own hours and being able to raise 4 kids here in San Luis Obispo, having lived, moving from home to home, working for the next project. So I've lived in most neighborhoods in San Luis Obispo, and I'm super excited now to live in Morro Bay, and I'm working on remodeling this house. It's about 100 years old, right? And I've gutted the kitchen and the bathroom and put together most of it again. I'm still missing a shower surround and a pantry, but we're working on that. Redid all the flooring, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like, what was maybe the career is now a hobby, but you sound like you've really dove into buying and building even for yourself, not just for others. Is that how you guys worked it?
Right. Yeah. So we always delved into construction and development, and infill projects was my specialty. Being, environmentally conscious, trying to keep density within the city and within close limits to the resources. And now it allows me, because I own several properties, to be a nonprofit executive director living here in SLO. It's been a pretty good business. We've done well in it, and I'm very fortunate.
Well, as I mentioned in my opening, you said that the executive director of the Slow Botanical Gardens is your dream job. What makes you say that?
Well, it kind of merges all of my passions together in one position, and it's super fun. I love being part of, education and art and culture and public service. Of course, working towards bettering the environment and people's consciousness about the environment. And also it includes construction and community building. So it has everything that I love. I'm a Rotarian. I've, served the school system as my children were growing up, coached a ton of soccer, and had such a great time doing that as we were growing up. And now I get to go to work in this amazing, beautiful place every day. And I work with happy people that bring all their skills and experiences to the garden. And they're so generous, because most of them are volunteers. I have a really slim staff, and the garden runs a pretty tight ship in terms of what expenses we incur, and then we get a lot done, though. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, well, for folks maybe who have never visited or maybe even heard of the Slow Botanical Gardens, how do you describe it?
Well, since I go there to work every day, I think I have a different view, but I describe it as a magical place that people should definitely visit to find their own connection with. I know that children visit and they find each one has a different connection with, the plants, the art, the what they learn. We have a lot of education signs everywhere. It is a plant library. So our mission is not only to connect people with nature, but to educate the public about the environment around them. And through the theme of the 5 Mediterranean climate zones of the world's plants. So we have a sampling of all 5 Mediterranean climate zone plants of the world at the garden right now.
So are you just raising them for fun, or is there some kind of bigger plan for connecting all of this work? When we're doing this, is it to enjoy the beauty, to educate, or is there kind of like science to it?
There is a lot of science. You can be as nerdy as you can, like as you want to, and learn all the scientific names of all the plants we have there. We have over 2,000 accessioned plants. That means they're cataloged. They're part of a worldwide database of plant collections. And we have that information available to you. Our plants have little signs and they're tagged. We have QR codes next to most of our plants, so you can just zap it and get all the information you can possibly want on that plant while you're looking at it right there in the garden and enjoying the birds and the nature and the fresh air and the quiet of the garden most of the time. It's actually not that quiet because there's lots of birds and animals and wildlife there, and the trees are rustling, depending on the wind, and lots of amazing nature sounds that will really relax you. There are a lot of health benefits of being out in nature. So I want to make sure I mention that. I didn't even put it in my notes, but that is one of the major perks of your connection with nature that you can foster at the garden in whatever way you see fit. And it could be different every time you go, because there are new things every single time you go. There's new things to learn. There's new things to experience, new aspects of the garden that's always changing and growing. So from our art collection to our plants, our plants are changing every day. So you get to see that. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, and you mentioned in a little earlier, though, kind of specializing in the plants of the 5 Mediterranean climates, regions of the world. Can you share what makes our climate a Mediterranean climate, or what are the other regions, what shared characteristics they have?
Yeah, so the Mediterranean climate zone is characterized by 5 months of wet, rainy weather, but not all the time. It's never too hot, never too cold. And then also the 5 months, and it's usually an average of 20 inches of rainfall per year. And then it's on the flip side, it has 7 months, usually on average, of pretty dry but temperate climate. So it's always really nice out here, right? We love living here. You have to carry a jacket, but it's a light jacket. You don't usually have to wear shoes or socks. It's pleasant. So that is the characteristic. There's also the influence of the ocean that keeps the weather pretty mild. And there's always a mountain range involved that keeps that, the severe weather on the other side of the mountain from us, that is protected by the ocean influence. So those are the characteristics of the Mediterranean climate zone. And the 5 Mediterranean climate zones are, there's a portion of South Africa, a portion of Chile that has the same mountain ranges and ocean influence. There are portions of Western Australia and the Mediterranean basin. And then of course, California. And you'll be surprised to hear that the Mediterranean climate zone in California extends from Redding, which is, Mount Shasta and stuff that protects that area, all the way down to the northern part of Baja, Mexico. So there's that mountain range that extends all the way down there, and then the ocean influence on our west coast. So just creates this mild climate that everybody loves to live in all year round. So we're very fortunate. But it is a shrinking climate zone. It only occupies about 2% of the world's landmass. So conservation is also part of our mission, and trying to educate people about the dangers of what we're doing to the environment and how it's changing, and how we are reducing the amount of area that is Mediterranean climate zone characterized. So
Yeah, and it's so interesting. We had a conversation with June McIver a little earlier, who's in the winemaking industry, and we were talking about that and how impactful like all of that change is having on the environment, on our way of life, and how that could be change going forward and moving us into extremes that either take us, you know, to desert or to the other side of soaking like wet. So very interesting to know about that Mediterranean influence, especially that it's governed by the mountain range that keeps all of that influence. That's so interesting, and appreciate you sharing kind of that idea. And so when folks come, they can see those types of plants that are native to those regions at the botanical gardens.
Yes, we have a sampling of plants from each of the regions in our display garden currently. And then now we're starting to develop the 5 regions that are laid out on the San Luis Obispo Botanical Garden property. We have 150 acres. And those 150 acres are divided into the different regions. And there is an equator running in between. Since our property runs north-south, the Northern Hemisphere has the California and the Mediterranean Basin showcased there. And the Southern Hemisphere has Australia, South Africa, and then Chile. And this year, we're really starting to develop the Chilean region. That's already been started by Mr. Jan van Egel. He is an amazing volunteer, 88 years young, and he's planted about 90 Chilean wine palms on the above the visitor center right now, and they're doing really well. And they'll provide a canopy for the rest of the plantings that will go around up there in that region, quote unquote. And be up there with the sundial that a lot of people love to visit. It's also the beginnings of the Discovery Trail that we have.
So such exciting stuff and so many different pieces there. You know, looking through the botanical gardens, I see things called demonstration gardens. What are those? And can you give us an example of what that might be?
Yeah, so one major demonstration garden that you won't miss, even just on your drive up, is called the Fire Safe Garden. And it's a very highly utilized, very popular garden for obvious reasons, because it demonstrates what plants you can plant near your property, your building, either your home or your business, to protect it from fires. So making it more fire safe. So they're actually plants that are planted closer to your structure that will help protect it from fire. So they have a high water content and will actually, you know, explode and retard the fire as it's coming towards your structure. So that garden is 2 acres that was developed by Cal Fire, and we had a lot of community help in building it. It started in 2014, installation of that garden, and it's still going on because it's always growing and developing. But that is it. We have education boards and signage for people to learn about what is safe to plant in and near their home, that they can visit every day, really. Another demonstration garden we have started about 3 years ago. It was born from a Cal Poly senior project. So Nicole at that time was a sophomore, very organized, very together young woman who started her senior project as a sophomore. And she, with Lindsay Morgan and a lot of help from the community of Cal Poly and also the Northern Chumash Tribal Council, they sent a representative and helped design a weaving restoration garden. So it's 2 acres of plantings that are focused on native weaving material. And that area will also serve as a ceremonial spot because it has a natural ceremonial feel because of the large cypress and pine trees that grew in a circle, creating a really nice open area in the middle for gatherings. And around it we'll have herbs, because we do teach herbal medicine classes, herbal remedy classes from the garden. And we also teach pine needle basket weaving. We've had instructors teach at the garden, and we've had culture fairs, Chumash culture shares there every year. And we'll continue that tradition of teaching about the land and how honored we are to be able to share it with the community and educate them about what it was used for in the past.
How amazing it is. And I see on the website, it describes it as an Ethno Botanical Garden. What does that mean?
Well, ethno is the history of that area and who used it beforehand and what it was used for. And botanical is our plants that we'll be restoring in that area to teach people about the history of what the uses were in the past. We have a Chumash representative helping us with interpretation signs to properly display the information. And they've actually helped us throughout the garden with our signage, especially in the children's garden, and in interpreting the uses of the native plants that have been here for a long time that we're replanting with, especially in that area because it is part of the California region, which is the largest region of our garden. We also developed protocols and practices to selectively weed. When we're weeding the garden, we do it mostly by hand with volunteers they're experts in native plants and native plant restoration and conservation. So when we go around, even in like the Chilean region and Australian region, we will promote native plants and then incorporate the other non-native plants, like the Australian plants that we'll plant in Australia in the demonstration gardens for that region. They'll be incorporated into the California native plants that already are recovering in those areas. So that's our method for future development of the grounds, is to selectively weed.
It's so exciting. And so you've now been in your role about 3 years now, almost 3 years now. What would you say is or are the biggest successes so far during your time?
Well, thriving during COVID is a huge success. We used that time actually to plan and expand and build capacity in our community. So during COVID, our property as outdoor recreation was a safe place to be, a safe place to visit, a safe place to work. So we were able to attract more volunteers during that time than ever. So in 2020, our numbers were phenomenal. We had over 500 volunteers come help us, either in short increments or they stayed on and are a longtime volunteer now. And the volunteers logged over 10,000 hours of work in 2020. And those numbers are growing this year. It's we're a silver lining. That is definitely a silver lining for the garden. So that, and then also expanding community relationships and offerings to the public. So relationship building that capacity with businesses and other nonprofit partners that we have, working more with the county parks and county building and permitting to build out the master plan that we're revising right now. We have increased visitorship and volunteerism and growing the garden in so many ways. So we are making daily progress towards sustainability for the garden. We've definitely showed resilience through COVID, and then we right before the COVID shutdown in 2020, it kind of got missed because that same week, the County Board of Supervisors, that they shut down the county for COVID, they passed and approved the operating agreement that we have with the county for use of the 150 acres that the garden operates on. So we have an operating agreement now with the county that is compliant with National Park Service that allows us, the Friends of San Luis Obispo Botanical Garden, the nonprofit, to operate on the 150 acres we currently operate on for essentially 100 more years. So that was one of a huge accomplishment that I've been working towards since the day I started, and building that relationship up again, and getting, being able to start doing projects again on the garden grounds, making improvements to our education center. We got this amazing grant from the Harold J. Miosi Charitable Trust just this last month to finish the flat work around the education center. And that includes a donor wall to make things right with our previous donors. Everybody who contributed towards the building of our beautiful education center that I have my office in right now, and that we house so many and host so many great events and celebrations, will be finished. So that campaign I dubbed the Growing Access for the Garden campaign, because it's not only improving accessibility to our restrooms from the parking lot for everybody that comes to visit, because you will no longer, after this year, no longer have to trudge through the gravel. If you haven't visited in a while, there's a lot of gravel around the education center, and it will be covered in concrete instead, and solid, and the concrete serves a purpose. And I know people sometimes get a little agitated when we pour more concrete, but the concrete is actually serving a purpose to help us collect rainwater, so we can water our plants in the children's garden. So that is what we're doing. And we should be starting that work. I just got word from the contractor that we're hiring to do the finish work. That concrete work will be starting October 4th, is what I've been told. But don't quote me on that, because it is coming from a contractor that's trying to finish a job that he's currently working on. So you know what happens, but it will happen by the end of the year, I project. So.
That's so interesting, and an amazing amount of work that's happening. And you talked about that new operating agreement with the county. Are you looking to design out those areas? How's that? Or can people help with that?
Yes, thanks, Jim, for leading me into this one, because I totally forgot about it. But it is an opportunity for the public to comment and have input on the future plans for the gardens. New visitor center. We have a over 25-year-old master plan that calls for a visitor center that is not where our education center is right now, but on the other side of the ball fields, on the other side of the creek. More centrally located on our property, and not just on the west side of our property. So the new visitor center needs input. What do you want as part of a visitor center? I know there's talk about the librarians that we have right now are busting at the seams in our little room for their library, and they want a library. There's talk about a cafe, and not 5 cafes, mind you, just one. and a propagation area needs to be updated. And then facilities maintenance, we're always filling up our current boneyard and need protection of all of our stored equipment as we're growing, and as we continue to maintain and grow into our 150 acres. So right now, actually just last week, it was a major benchmark for me, because it was like a huge thing off my shoulders. I submitted permits for 3 more miles of trail and 5 shelters that are going to go give the public access to the rest of our 150 acres for the very first time ever. So that was super exciting. And I've been so blessed to work with the county planning and building department and county parks. They've been super supportive, and the California Conservation Corps we have a grant with them through Prop 68 through the California Conservation Corps to help us with 2,000 hours this year of work, preliminary work around the area that the trails will be going. And also we are applying for a $3 million grant with the state parks Proposition 68 funding. And this is phase 5 for rural and recreational, which we qualify for. And our project with the trails, the new visitor center, the new demonstration gardens, the gardens of exploration we're planning, and other aspects of the future botanical garden are going to be incorporated in this grant proposal. And we need the public's input. And so you can join us next Wednesday. Tori Biles and I will be leading a discussion on what do you want for your future botanical garden? We'll lay out what we've got. We have maps of where we are proposing, actually where the master plan has proposed for the new infrastructure. And we'll be doing that via Zoom on Wednesday, September 29th, starting at 5:30. And you can register for all of this and find out more information on our website at slobg.org. Just type in San Luis Obispo Botanical Garden and you'll find us. And then we will also be walking on the site of the new, proposed visitor center and infrastructure on Saturday, October 2nd. It's all free. Please join us at 10:30. Bring your water and sunscreen and good walking shoes, because we are walking on very uncharted territory, because we are going into the rest of the 150 acres. And that is October 2nd again, Saturday, starting at 10:30. And we'd love your input. We will also be sending out surveys. There'll be time to give us input. Just write me an email. That would be great also. I'm very receptive and I love hearing the public's comments and ideas about what they want in their future garden, because it is for you and for your offspring, and then also millions of people that you will never meet, that I will never meet. So that's really, really exciting, because this is not just our garden, it's the future garden. So
there's so much amazing work happening for your organization. It does seem like it would take a lot of support, both financially and physically. How can folks participate or support the work of the Botanical Gardens?
Well, donate, of course. We are a nonprofit. We could always use donations. General operations still need to go on every day. Visit, bring friends, become a member. Membership for a household is only $65 for now. I'm giving you that preference because we are improving. Therefore, the rates will probably go up a little bit. And for that membership, you get free admissions all the time whenever the park is open, and our grounds are open all the time, whenever there is daylight. So it also gives you discounts on our plant sales, in our gift shops every day, and for our programs. You also, when you join, get a free plant from our plant sale area, and a free magazine subscription when you join. We are also part of a reciprocating admissions program, which gets you membership benefits at over 340 other gardens in North America. So if you look up the RAP program with the American Horticultural Society, it'll give you a listing that'll include Santa Barbara Botanical, the Huntington, San Francisco Botanical, all these other bigger gardens that charge a lot more for admissions will give you membership benefits at their garden with our membership. So yeah, for $65, it gets you a lot. So that helps. And then also volunteer, become part of the community. It's an amazing group of people with skills. We allow you to like explore all the roles at the garden to find out what you're passionate about, and then we go with that, and you guide your own experience. And mostly just come visit. That's how you can support the gardens. Come visit.
That is terrific information and incredible value for getting for that membership. We're going to go ahead and drop in the comments below here a link to the website. So feel free to just click on there to go visit, figure out how you can participate. And as we get to the end of our conversation here, like we do every week, we really just want to get to know a little bit more about Chenda. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I've got 3 things on my list here. I've got my oldest child's birthday. Mia's turned 24 yesterday, so we're celebrating them today. Jessica Milton's wedding is this weekend. Super exciting plans for. And then also surfing every weekend.
That's fun. So yeah, congrats. That's actually a kind of a busy week. So
Yeah, it
good
is.
luck.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim, so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, and all the information you shared with our listeners and the watchers here. It's been really fascinating talking with you. So thanks for being a part of this.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime, really. Thank you.
As
Have a great
always,
week, everyone.
yeah, absolutely. As always, if you have questions for our guests, feel free to add them into the Facebook comments below, and Chenda and her team will hop on and try to answer them when they get a moment. We really appreciate you tuning in. We hope to see you next Friday at noon for another working lunch. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy and safe out there.